Ndrangheta, the crime empire and its relentless, shadowy wars. Once dismissed as an outdated and rural peasant mafia, the Ndrangheta has quietly grown into a powerful criminal empire. Operating with remarkable stealth and patience, it has surpassed the more infamous Sicilian Cosa Nostra to become Italy's and perhaps the world's foremost criminal organization. Originally from the southern Italian region of Calabria, Ndrangheta has evolved into a multinational crime syndicate, running vast operations across continents, with influence reaching from Europe to South America and as far afield as Australia. This criminal network, estimated to control more than 80% of Europe's cocaine supply, is deeply embedded in global organized crime. The Ndrangheta is not only engaged in the drug trade but also controls a wide range of criminal activities: human trafficking, extortion, arms dealing, racketeering, kidnapping for ransom, prostitution, loan sharking, and smuggling. Its influence extends through various legal and illegal industries, rendering it a formidable, almost untouchable force in the underworld. The Great Italian Crackdown, a historic operation. On December 19, 2019, Italy carried out one of its largest anti-mafia operations in decades. Early that morning, a massive raid involving over 3,000 Special Forces officers and investigators led to the search of 416 properties and the arrest of 334 suspects. Nicola Gratteri, the prosecutor leading the anti-mafia operations in Catanzaro, described it as a historic day for Calabria, drawing comparisons to the largest raids against the Sicilian Mafia in the past. The operation targeted some of the most powerful Ndrangheta families, including the Mancuso clan, notorious for its far-reaching influence that even spanned African nations like Togo, where it was deeply involved in the cocaine trade. But this operation wasn't just about taking down known criminals. Several politicians and officials linked to the Ndrangheta were also apprehended, exposing the network's profound penetration into Italian public life. Among those arrested were Giancarlo Pitelli, a prominent lawyer and politician, and Gianluca Calippo, a local president of ANCI, the Italian Association of Mayors. Additionally, the police chief of Vibo Valentia and a senior special forces commander were also detained, further revealing the syndicate's insidious reach into law enforcement and public administration. The power of Ndrangheta lies in its quiet and calculated approach. Unlike the Cosa Nostra, which openly defied the Italian government in the 1980s and 1990s, the Ndrangheta has consistently worked in the shadows. This has enabled it to extend its influence even beyond Italy, infiltrating global markets and adapting its operations to modern times. The transformation from local mafia to global crime empire. Beginning in the 1970s, the Ndrangheta shifted its operations to become a more formidable force in the criminal world. Initially focusing on local crimes like robbery, smuggling, and kidnapping, it gradually transformed into an international powerhouse through two main strategies: investing in legitimate businesses and expanding its drug trafficking network. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the syndicate had begun to invest heavily in public infrastructure projects in Calabria and solidified its control over the cocaine trade, positioning itself as a major player in the international drug market. As cocaine gained popularity in the 1980s and 1990s, the demand for the drug provided Ndrangheta with vast profit margins. In contrast, its rival, the Cosa Nostra, was heavily invested in the heroin trade. This strategic difference allowed the Ndrangheta to grow richer and more powerful, ultimately edging out the Sicilian Mafia as the dominant Italian criminal syndicate. The profits from drug trafficking were immense. Ndrangheta used these proceeds to launder money and invest in legitimate businesses across Italy and beyond, from construction and hotels to healthcare and car dealerships. This strategy not only legitimized the group's wealth, but also enabled it to further expand its influence in political and economic spheres, infiltration into politics and business. Today, Ndrangheta is known for its ability to infiltrate political, economic, and even legal systems in Italy and abroad. Unlike the Sicilian Mafia's more confrontational approach, Ndrangheta has operated with subtlety, preferring to avoid public confrontations with the state. Instead, it has used bribes, political influence, and partnerships with corrupt officials to secure its power. This quiet infiltration was evident in several Italian cities. In Val d'Aosta, for instance, The mayor was forced to resign following an investigation that revealed he had used Ndrangheta's help to secure votes. In northern Italian cities like Milan, Turin, and Genoa, as well as in Lombardy and Piedmont, many local politicians and business owners have benefited from working with Calabria's notorious mafia bosses. Rather than fighting the organization, they've profited by offering services to Ndrangheta members, many of whom live under house arrest yet continue to operate their criminal networks with impunity. This symbiotic relationship between local politicians and the mafia has had dire consequences for Italy. Ndrangheta's vast illegal profits have flooded legitimate industries, allowing the group to control large segments of the economy. Construction projects, online gambling platforms, loan services, and even health services have become tainted by the group's influence, creating a network that is nearly impossible to dismantle. The three pillars of Ndrangheta's success. Three factors have enabled Ndrangheta to establish itself as a leading mafia syndicate on the global stage. 1. Organizational flexibility. Unlike Cosa Nostra, which relies on a centralized Supreme Council to govern its operations, Ndrangheta is structured more like a federation, with each Ndrangheta, a local clan unit, operating semi-independently. This decentralized structure allows each unit to adapt to local conditions while adhering to a shared code of conduct. 2. Dominance in the drug trade. Ndrangheta has carved out a unique position in the international cocaine market. By establishing direct relationships with South American producers, the syndicate bypasses middlemen, maximizing profits and establishing control over key trafficking routes. They have further solidified these alliances through marriage, binding families, and securing trust with the leaders of other drug cartels. Through these connections, Ndrangheta controls much of the cocaine supply across Europe, giving it unparalleled power in the global drug trade. 3. Ties with Freemasonry. Perhaps the most surprising factor in Ndrangheta's rise has been its alliance with Freemasonry. Members of the syndicate have infiltrated Masonic lodges, creating alliances with influential figures across various sectors. Through these ties, Ndrangheta has been able to access powerful networks of accomplices, including judges, politicians, journalists, and military leaders. This collaboration has shielded the group from scrutiny and enabled it to secure support in high places. A strategic shift to secrecy. In the mid-1980s, Ndrangheta experienced a period of intense internal conflict, which culminated in a bloody war that claimed over 700 lives. In the aftermath, the syndicate opted to abandon violence, instead adopting a low-profile approach. By refraining from high-profile assassinations and bloody clashes, Ndrangheta avoided the intense scrutiny that eventually crippled the Cosa Nostra. Choosing to operate in rural areas, away from public view, the syndicate managed to maintain its power without drawing attention. This low-profile strategy has allowed the Ndrangheta to continue its operations without becoming a primary target for Italian authorities. In fact, the group's leaders understand precisely when to use violence and when to exercise restraint, a tactic that has contributed to their longevity. The harsh reality beneath the surface. For decades, many believed that Ndrangheta was a minor threat, a peasant mafia of shepherds in Calabria. However, recent investigations have painted a starkly different picture. Far from being a backward rural mafia, the Ndrangheta is a sophisticated, modern criminal enterprise with tentacles in almost every sector of society. This syndicate has capitalized on alliances with powerful institutions, adopting new strategies that blend criminal enterprise with legitimate business practices, making it one of the most successful and elusive criminal organizations in history. As Italy and the rest of the world come to terms with the syndicate's vast influence, it is clear that the Ndrangheta represents a complex and deeply embedded threat. Its operations resemble the plot of a Hollywood thriller more than a simple criminal organization, but the reality of its power, reach, and ruthlessness is far more chilling than fiction.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And as always, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.